So yeah, we'll just jump right in here. We'll do a little bit of background on Oregon Wild. We'll talk a little bit about snowshoe gear, snowshoeing tips and some safety, and then really focus in on that last one there, which is where to go snowshoeing in Central Oregon, given that that was where there was a lot of interest. So Oregon Wild, we're a nonprofit conservation organization. We work on protecting wildlife habitat, including ewoks found on the southern Oregon coast in the redwoods. Yes, check it out. Wolf protection, the Klamath Basin in the upper left there. Lots of wildlife in Oregon we're working to protect. We've probably also protected a number of places maybe you've heard about or been to. We, along with others, work to protect places like Opal Creek, like the Mount Jefferson Wilderness, the Mount Hood Wilderness, Mount Thielsen, the lightning rod of the Cascades, just north of Crater Lake, and the Strawberry Mountain Wilderness, a gem out in Eastern Oregon that not a lot of people have been to, but highly recommend checking it out. And then here in our backyard in Central Oregon, the Three Sisters Wilderness. And I'm realizing I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Erik Fernandez. I'm the Wilderness Program Manager at Oregon Wild, and I'm your trusty guide for this evening as we talk about snowshoeing in Central Oregon. All right, so I do have one more question, no pop-up fancy poll for this, but as far as what percent of Oregon do you think is protected? So, think about the whole state as and how much of that has been protected permanently. I'll give you a hint. State of Washington has protected about 10% of their state. State of California, a bit more progressive, has protected about 15% of their state. And sadly, here in Oregon, we have only protected about 4% of our state. So one of the things Oregon Wild is doing is trying to correct this imbalance. We have a very green reputation here in Oregon, and it's one that we don't always live up to as well as we should when it comes to protecting clean drinking water, wildlife, habitat, and the public lands that we love to recreate on. So that kind of brings us to what Oregon Wild works on beyond protecting wildlife. There are some other places in the state that are part of the River Democracy Act. So places like the McKenzie River and tributaries to the McKenzie River. Here's a map of all of the rivers proposed as wild and scenic designations. And there's a lot going on here, but the short version of this is, if you look at these blue lines, these are the proposed wild and scenic rivers that are within the River Democracy Act legislation. A new version was just introduced or just came out recently, so I haven't updated this yet. But that's a lot of cool streams proposed for protection as wild and scenic that Senator Wyden has championed. And a wild and scenic river designation comes with a protective buffer on each side of the stream. So no clear cutting of old growth forest, no damming, and better control on mining operations in those river corridors. So we're pretty excited to see that legislation is a historic scale moving forward to better protect our clean drinking water and waterways and all the cool trails along these scenic rivers. All right. Some of the rivers that we're working on protecting include out in Northeast Oregon and South Fork of the Walla Walla River. And if you look closely in the middle of the stream, there is a moose. And yes, we do have moose in Oregon, mostly just over in Northeast Oregon. And up near the Mount Hood, we've got the Little Sandy River, stretches of that proposed for wild and scenic designation. And then here on the Deschutes National Forest, we are doing a lot of work. If you're in Central Oregon, you may have, and if you read the paper at all last year, you may have seen stories about some of the aggressive logging that's happening in the Phil's Trail area, where we've expressed some concerns. We and a lot of others, a lot of you perhaps, expressed concern that the logging is a little too aggressive and that they're logging mature trees under the guise of calling it fuels reduction, when fuels reduction is about cutting small trees, the more flammable trees, not cutting mature trees, which is what we've seen too many times in recent logging projects. On the Deschutes National Forest, your and my and everyone's public lands, that's not it's not good science. It's not good for trails. It's not good for wildlife. It's not good for climate change. Those big mature trees store a lot of carbon and absorb a lot of carbons, helping slow climate change. So we need to encourage the Forest Service to do a better job here locally at protecting the mature trees that we all love and are sort of the signature trees here in Central Oregon. And yeah, we're going to protect our beautiful ponderosa pines here on the Deschutes National Forest in our backyard. All right, on to the snowshoeing. So the gear. We'll start with the snowshoes. And I like to think of this as a lot of people ask, oh, do I get this model or do I get that model snowshoe? And if you haven't done snowshoeing before, I would suggest renting a pair of snowshoes first. Try that for a day or two. You can try a couple different brands or types, designs. Make sure you like it before you invest in a pair. But snowshoes, for the vast majority of snowshoeing most of us are going to do, you can use pretty much any snowshoe. Maybe not so much the old school wicker wooden snowshoes, but most snowshoes are interchangeable. I can wear my left snowshoe and your right snowshoe and we'll both be just fine. If you're going on a 10-mile backpacking trip and you've got a big pack on and the conditions are, deep powder, you want to make sure you've got the right size snowshoe. But for the day trips, that casual trips that most of us do, 3, 4, 5, 6 miles, don't need to overthink what snowshoe you're using. There are two main designs. One is the plastic rigid design, and that has some pretty good grip and traction around the edges and then the teeth underneath. The one you probably see the most of is this style where you've got this sort of webbed center, and then you have the aluminum or whatever this metal material is that goes around the edges. The one thing, and I think I'll mention this later, but when you're putting your boot into the snowshoe, this snowshoe has a brace here, so you can't put your snowshoe, your foot too far forward. If you do, then it can start rubbing up here, and if it rubs up there, the dynamic of the snowshoe is not going to work as well. So if you snowshoe before, you know that your heel comes loose. So every time you lift your foot up in the air, the back of the snowshoe drags along the ground. So you don't have to carry the whole weight of the snowshoe and any snow that piles up on there. That's how you want it to work. If your boot comes too far forward and it's rubbing, then the whole snowshoe will move as one unit, and that's not ideal. This one has a guard, so you can't do that. Most snowshoes don't have a guard. So when you're putting it on, I've seen people put snowshoes on backwards. I haven't seen sideways yet. Don't take that as a challenge. But you can see a lot of different types of straps and buckles. Typically, you get what you pay for with snowshoes. So, the buckles work a little bit better. When you put them on, make sure you put them on pretty snug. The straps, especially the one that goes around your heel, if you don't have it on tight enough, it'll probably slip off. It's happened to all of us. Not a big deal. You just strap it back on. But you don't want to pull any of your straps or buckles too tight to the point where you really feel like some pinching, because then you're going to get blisters, and nobody wants that. So yeah, so that's snowshoes. There are different types. When you get to the next level, if you can get extensions that go on the back of your snowshoes to give you a couple inches longer snowshoe. Most of us don't need that, but again, if you're going on a long trip and that with a heavy pack on, that can be helpful. So give it a try, and also taking one step back, for those of you who haven't tried snowshoeing before, it's pretty darn easy, and it's pretty fun. It's a very accessible sport. It's not like downhill skiing where there's all sorts of gear and things to learn, and it's a little more scary. This is pretty accessible. Once you get the snowshoes, you're pretty much good to go. And most people, if you're starting out, they'll walk funny for the first 15 minutes and then start walking pretty normally. And before you know it, you're not even really thinking about it too much. So it's a lot of fun. Great way to get into the outdoors during the winter. So we covered snowshoes, poles. If you like to hike with poles, you're probably going to like to snowshoe with poles. And if you're just starting out, you might want to try it with poles. A lot of people snowshoe without poles, and it's totally fine. You definitely don't need them. If you're out on a day where the conditions are a little bit icy, you might want to have poles. You do want to have poles in those conditions. But if it's an icy day, you probably don't want to be snowshoeing anyway. Also with poles, it's a little bit better to have the types of poles that are retractable so you can control the length. If you're using like regular downhill ski poles that are a fixed length, sometimes the snowshoe trail is unpacked, and then where people have snowshoed, it's sort of this little canyon that's like set down a foot or two below the rest of the snow. And if you have those stiff poles or set length poles, you're going to have your poles way up high here, and they're not going to work at all. Whereas if you can change the length of them, that'll work a little bit better. If you want them, not everybody wants poles, and that's all good. I would recommend layering when you dress for snowshoeing. Typically, a lot of people, you get to the snow park, wherever you're going, and you get out of the car and you're like, oh my gosh, it's freezing. And you put like everything you've got on, you put a blanket around you. Just remember that when you first get there, that's the coldest you're going to be all day, most likely, unless something goes really wrong. And so put layers on. You might want all of them when you start, but after you've been going for 20, 30 minutes, your heart's going to get going and the blood's pumping, and you're going to be warming up quite a bit, especially if it's a longer one or you've got some elevation. And the best way to deal with that, especially in winter, is just have layers. So you can, it's not all or nothing, one big warm coat or down to a t-shirt. Have layers, a base layer, and all that good stuff. Gaiters, not a necessity, but can certainly be helpful if you're going on a day right after there was a lot of fresh snow, or you're in a spot that's off trail or not a regular trail and you're just kind of wandering in the woods. If you're not familiar with gaiters, this is basically, you've got your hiking boot and then your snow pants come down, and you've got that seam in between where the snow loves to just pile into your boot and freeze your feet. What gaiters do, it's just basically a piece of fabric that wraps around that seam, goes part way up your calf and snugs around your shoe. Real easy to put on, and that'll keep any fresh snow from getting into your snowshoes. So those can certainly be helpful, but you don't need those most of the time. For footwear, the ideal is you have some sort of snow boot, not those big moon boots. Those won't fit in a snowshoe, but most hiking boots and snow boots will fit in snowshoes. So you don't have to worry too much about that. If you have like really bulky snow boots, make sure you try it out in your snowshoe before you drive up to the snow. So footwear, I have also seen people wear tennis shoes. And if the conditions are right, that's gonna be okay. It's gonna be doable. I do not recommend it, but on the right spring day, sure, you could get away with that. If you're in deep snow, you don't want it in your tennis shoes. You want snow boots or hiking boots. Hiking boots are probably the most common thing you'll see people wearing when they're out snowshoeing. Most of us don't have a special set of snow boots, and those work great. They don't have to be 100% waterproof. That's certainly helpful, but when you're out there, typically there's not, unless it's like raining and really warm, wet snow, you're not really going to be getting a lot of water going into your boots, so you should be okay on that front. Water, food, and kind of goes for the whole package deal here. It's a little more involved than just going for a regular hike, because you're out in the winter and you want to be extra careful. So make sure you've got some extra water, make sure you've got extra food, and all the 10 essentials. You can Google it. There's lots of different things, first aid kit and all that good stuff. It is winter, so you want to be careful. And perhaps most important, make sure you've got some hot chocolate that you've brought. Drink it in the car, bring it with you, bring a nice thermos of some hot chocolate. Makes everything a little bit better. So that kind of covers the gear. Again, if there are questions on gear, we can circle back on that at the end here when we get to Q&A. For maps on where to go, we're really fortunate here in Central Oregon. There are a lot of great trail maps specifically for snowshoeing and for cross-country skiing that either the Nordic clubs and or the Forest Service have partnered on to put out. And what I like and highly recommend people use, there are different options of this, but there's an app you can get on your phone. It's made by Avenza. It's called PDF Maps. Very straightforward and simple. Most PDF maps, you can just simply, it's really simple. You download it to your phone, open it up in this app, and all of a sudden you've got this, basically the trail map there. And what it'll do is it'll just, kind of like Google Maps, it'll just put a blue dot wherever you are. So you'll know if you're out here in the middle of the paintbrush trail, or if you're at this intersection or the other intersection, how much further you have to go. Very helpful in orienting. And all of the snow parks here have one of these in Central Oregon. So that's super helpful. And kudos to those who helped put those maps together. And we'll have something we send out that Aaron mentioned, and we'll include some links and the name of the app and some of the links where you can download these. But if there's a certain snow park, you can also just Google it. These maps are what everyone's looking for, so it should pop right up in any searches. Okay, moving on to tips for when you're snowshoeing. The one no-no, the one real no-no when you're snowshoeing is oftentimes you'll be on a trail that is shared with cross-country skiers. And I'm sure many of you have probably seen, if you're out cross-country skiing, you tend to leave this, this isn't the best example photo, but it's a two-track basically where people cross-country ski along. If you cross-country ski, you know it's really efficient and the best way to, best trail experience if you have those tracks set. And it only takes a few people to set those on cross-country skis, but it only takes a step or two on by snowshoes to kind of trample it. And so why stay off of those, keep the peace on the trails. Cross-country skiers get very grumpy when snowshoers are walking on top of their tracks. And if you cross-country ski, you'd understand why. But also there's a safety feature here, because while us snowshoers don't always have poles, cross-country skiers always do, and they might get angry enough that they will use those poles as weapons against you. So stay off of those. Obviously, if you get to a spot in the trail where it's kind of narrow and there's like, you know, a drop off on one side and a steep embankment on the other, and you have no choice really but to walk on the cross-country ski tracks, go for it, just do that. Safety wins out 10 times out of 10. But it is one thing to remember. All right, couple suggestions. So the other no-no, there are two, forgot to mention, is don't walk backwards in your snowshoe. So as I mentioned, you know, when you lift your foot up, the heel of the snowshoe rests down. So that's fine if you're moving forward direction, just drag it behind you. If you lift your foot up and then you try to go backwards, that tail of your snowshoe is going to dig right into the snow and send you over backwards. Hopefully, you know, you're in the snow, it should be soft landing and it'll all be good, but most people prefer not to fall. So don't go backwards, just turn in a nice little circle and it'll be all good. One thing to remember is that the early bird cuts the trail. So when you're out snowshoeing, if you're the first one going through powder, deep powder conditions, it's a lot of work. You know, even 6 inches of fresh powder that if nobody else has been on it, you're gonna feel it pretty quickly. So if you've got several people in your group, great, you can just kind of change out and the next person can lead for a little bit and then change out again, and every 15 minutes rotate or whatever. But if you don't really want to mess around with that, just let somebody else go first. And, you know, but if you are that super early morning person and you want to be up before everyone, going in the powder is actually really kind of fun. It's just tiring. So factor that in depending on what you're after. And this next one, snow conditions is really kind of the key to the game of snowshoeing. And I can't overemphasize this enough. One of the things snow conditions affects is the difficulty level. So you may talk to a buddy about where they snowshoed yesterday, and they say, oh yeah, super easy trail, no problem. Any beginner could do it. You go 3 days from now, and the conditions might have changed, and it might be expert dangerous terrain. So it just can really be all about the surface conditions, and it can go from light, simple, packed snow to icy conditions. And, in a good winter, we don't get a lot of those icy days, but there are always some. And best to just not go if it's been icy. So try to track down any snow reports you can get from ski areas or any of the Facebook groups online that'll have lots of information about the weather, and check the forecast, see where the freezing level is. Usually if you're in Bend, if our weather is below 50 degrees, you're probably going to be getting snow at most of the snow parks and above. So the other dynamic with snow conditions is very connected to the weather. And the weather is really what is going to determine where you want to go snowshoeing on any given day. If it's a clear day, go somewhere with a view. We don't get an unlimited, we're a little bit spoiled here in Central Oregon. We get a lot of clear days, but we don't get unlimited clear days. And sometimes you want to get out to the snow, and maybe it's overcast, maybe it's storming and snowing. And so on those days, you don't want to go out into these big wide open areas where, there's normally a great view. If it's storming, you won't see anything, and you're probably going to be out in the open getting blasted with snow. So pick a trail that has that's more through the forest if it's a storm day. So you really want to keep track of the weather. If the snow level the freezing level is up a little higher, don't go trying to snowshoe somewhere down low elevation. Pick somewhere up higher so that it's no fun snowshoeing in the rain, but if it's snowing, great, love it. As I mentioned, snowshoeing, it's a little more tiring than just a regular hike. So what I would factor in, especially if you're starting out, if you normally hike a certain distance, say 8 miles, for your first snowshoe, plan to do maybe 4 miles. A lot of it is just fitness, but it can be a little bit more involved. So plan on that 2-to-1 ratio to start, and then as you do more of it, you can kind of gauge your fitness level. You do want to have a snow park pass. You can get those pretty much anywhere in town. REI, any of the outdoor stores have them. Some of the gas stations have them, but you do need those to park at any of the snow parks we have. You can get a day pass, or you can, which I forget, I haven't looked at, I think it's like maybe $3 or $4, or you can get a full season pass, which is 20 or 25, I forget how much it was. If you get it at the DMV, there's no surcharge, and some places in town add a couple bucks, other places don't. So if you're looking to save a few bucks, maybe call ahead and just ask if they have an added fee on top. And then there's a golden rule about dogs. Obviously follow any rules about whether dogs are on leashes or not. But here in Central Oregon, we have a pretty set rule on dogs. So if you are at a snow park most of our snow parks are off of the Cascade Lakes Highway as you head out towards Mount Bachelor. If you're on the north side of the highway in a snow park there, dogs are not allowed. If you're south of the highway, then dogs are allowed. So one thing to keep in mind, if you bring a dog somewhere it's not allowed, it will be pointed out by just about everybody. So fair warning on that one. We're lucky here, we have impeccably marked trails. Not every foot is marked. There's probably a few that are on trees that fell over, but again, kudos to the Forest Service and in particular volunteers with the Nordic Club and others out there. They're putting up these types of symbols, or sometimes you'll just see the diamond. And that's a great way to know that you're on the right trail. You're not lost. So always keep an eye out for some version of that. Here you've obviously got the snowshoer. Sometimes you'll see different symbol for a cross-country skier. Right, and then one tip for when you're having lunch. So I always plan on a short lunch when you're snowshoeing. Typically, you're going up in elevation to get to a certain destination or whatever, and you kind of warmed up. You've been going for an hour or two, and you're like, I'm gonna chat for a little bit, and eventually I'll have a snack, and then I'll get to my lunch. And when you stop moving and you're in the snow and it's winter, your body cools down really fast. So have your sandwich, have your PB&J, eat that when you get there to wherever your lunch destination is. And then if you're still warm, after that, hang out as long as you want. But best to plan on a short lunch, especially if you're sitting right in the snow. You're going to lose body heat really fast. You can bring those really thin little pads that weigh almost nothing, and you can use those to sit on. That'll buy you some time and keep you a little bit warmer. Those are great. I have one, my wife has one. We have them right next to our snowshoes, and I forget them pretty much every single time. So if that happens, my backup is always, I'll take my gloves off and I'll just sit on my gloves, and it works sort of okay. So that's one thing to think about when you're having lunch. And then sitting down. So obviously with that mechanism with the snowshoe and the loose heel, how do you get into that sitting position? I would get into the sitting position the same way that you get out of it. You can try just sort of, hey, you fall backwards, and if it's nice powder snow, great. And I would recommend keeping your snowshoes on. They're not that hard to take on and off, but it's a little bit of a pain, and I'd rather not mess around with that. So keep your snowshoes on, get into that sitting position. So what I would do to get into the sitting position is either fall backwards or go forward and kind of get down on your hands and knees, and then just roll over onto your butt into a sitting position, easy peasy. And then when you're getting out of that position, and you can kind of just, it's most comfortable if you sort of kick those heels of the snowshoes out, very comfortable sitting position, at least for a while. And then when you want to get up, obviously from this photo, you would not be very easy to get up from that position. So again, just swivel over onto your knees, sort of roll over to your side, and then up you go, really easy. Those are my lunch recommendations. Okay, this is the one question I get the most about snowshoeing, and it is one of the most frustrating things about snowshoeing. So you can see here, I've got a huge snowball on the bottom of my snowshoe. It is no fun, and it can actually be a little dangerous because it can make you twist your ankle a little bit. There's sadly no good solution for this. The best way to avoid this happening is just don't snowshoe on days. It tends to happen on days when it's warmer out, especially if, say, you had 2 or 3 inches of snow and then you have a warm sunny day. That's when the snow kind of really gets clomped up on the bottom of your snowshoe. And what you can do is you can, like, click your heels together a little bit, or click the shoes together, and that will work. That'll buy you a little bit of time. Sometimes that gets you clear for a while. Sometimes 2 minutes later, you're right back with snowballs on the bottom of your snowshoes. And it's really not fun. I don't like it when that happens. So if it does keep happening, I found what you kind of have to do is just take your snowshoe off and get all the snow out from the bottom of your snowshoe. Because I think what happens is you just bang them together. Sometimes you get lucky and the full snowball comes off. A lot of times there's still a chunk of snow under there, and that chunk of snow tends to function like an adhesive to grab more snow. So I've heard various theories, which I think are all bogus, to how to avoid this. Some people have recommended you take cooking oil spray. I don't think that's going to work, but you're welcome to try it. I think it's going to rub off really quickly. There's one interesting theory that I have not tried yet, which it's been suggested that you take duct tape all across the bottom of your snowshoe. Now, obviously, on the teeth of your snowshoes here, these sharp guys, you don't want to put the duct tape covering that. The sharpness in these teeth is what gives you traction if you get into an icy section. So you want to keep those teeth doing their job. But everywhere else, in between the teeth here and then down here, you can try it. I think that might actually help a little bit because it's a pretty slick surface, and duct tape's going to stick pretty well. Just make sure you don't put it on in a way that affects that loose heel dynamic. What I do is I just tend to try to avoid those warmer days if it's going to be in a sunny area. If it's more in the shade, you're less likely to have that happen. But I apologize. I wish I had the silver bullet solution to that pain in the butt problem. It doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, most of the winter, you won't see this. But most people, if you go snowshoeing enough, you'll have one of those days, or at least a lot of times it's like the second half of the way back kind of thing as the day gets warmer. All right, safety. So this is where I go through a few different safety precautions. I don't want to overdo the dangers of snowshoeing, because snowshoeing is one of the more safe outdoor activities you can possibly do. This is not learning to bobsled. You don't need a helmet, but I will give you some good safety tips for general when you're out in the snow. One thing to watch out for are tree wells. You can see in this diagram here what happens: snow falls from the sky, gets caught in the tree branches, and it doesn't accumulate underneath. And then as it piles up outside, you get these sort of open cavities of areas that are called tree wells, and you can fall in them. They're not always easy to see. So if you're looking at this photo here, if you're looking this way, you might not see that there's a open cavity under these branches, but from here, obviously, we can kind of see in here. And sometimes it's more obvious, sometimes it's less obvious. This is really an issue for downhill skiing. Not so much for snowshoeing, but if you want to be extra careful, just, and this happens typically after there's been a lot of fresh snow, just don't walk too close to where you see trees. Obviously, if you can see that there's a tree well, don't get too close. But definitely something to be aware of in the great outdoors. This is crazy little short video I'll play you of, you can, no obvious tree well here, but there is one hiding beneath the surface here. So check this out. So pretty wild. You don't want to do that. If for some reason, if you're downhill skiing, one recommendation is you want to grab onto the trunk of the tree or branches, because you want to try to, if you're falling in, you don't want to go head first. You want to try to keep your head up. It's just safer, easier to get out that way. As with all safety issues, go with a friend or two friends. All of those good safety tips that apply to hiking apply to snowshoeing as well. This is a fun one here. A lot of times when you're out snowshoeing, there's been recent snow and you're walking along, you're having a conversation, and you're like, all of a sudden there's like snow falling out of the branches, and human instinct is not so smart in these situations. We tend to look up to see where's that coming from. And sometimes there are these really big snowballs that are accumulated up on the tree branches. You don't want to look up and have any size snowball hit you in the face. I've never heard of this actually happening to anyone or injuring anyone, but everybody's had it fall down a little bit on them. So best when you feel it coming down, just keep walking, take a few more steps, turn around and look back, just to be a little extra safe. More on tips, also a little bit of safety. False trails, I experienced this just a week ago when we were out snowshoeing. Whoever goes out first in the morning after a fresh snowfall, the trail that was packed down and totally obvious yesterday might be totally covered. And so you're kind of like looking, where's that little, diamond stuck to the tree showing where my trail is, because there's no obvious trail in the snow. It's just snow and trees. And what can happen is everybody starts out on the trail in the right spot, and then whoever went first may have gone straight, and they were supposed to turn right and to follow the trail. And if you're the next person coming behind them, you're just going to follow wherever the snowshoe tracks are. You're going to be tempted to not be paying attention to where the actual trail is. So again, have a good map, and just be aware of that. And sometimes you'll find you can get like a spider web if you're like right near a destination. Like here, we've got a lot of shelters. You'll find people kind of wandering all over the place. So you just kind of keep an eye out when you get in those situations, like, okay, where are my trail markers? Make sure you're going the right way. I would also recommend keeping your snowshoes on. Sometimes if you get to an area that has been really heavily packed down by a lot of snowshoers, not been any fresh snow for a couple of days, and you're like, you know what, I'm fine. I'm just going to walk the rest of this way. I've got my my hiking boots on. I'll be good. Keep your snowshoes on. They've got the teeth on the bottom that give you good traction, and it's snow, and you can get to some icy spots that you may not see, and you don't want to fall. sprained ankle, wrist, whatever, less likely to happen if your snowshoes are on. And also what you'll sometimes see is where people have done this, it's very obvious. You'll see it's a very flat packed surface, and then you'll see somebody's footprint goes a foot or 2 feet down. We call it post holing. It's not fun, and you can injure your ankle doing that. And it's a lot of work and uncomfortable. So, and typically when that happens, it's like you could walk for a half mile and not sink in, and then boom, 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 bunch of post holes. So best to keep your snowshoes on. As I mentioned before, on the safety front, tell someone where you're going if you're going alone and what time you'll be back, all those good safety tips. And one tip with your snowshoes, like I mentioned, you've got the teeth that are right underneath where your feet go on the snowshoes. You want to keep those teeth sharp. And so if you're walking in a snow park that's down to pavement and you're walking on those teeth, you're going to dull those teeth and they won't work as well on icy conditions. So take your snowshoes off in the snow park. If it's, a lot of times our snow parks are still totally snow covered, and then you can wear the snowshoes right to your car. That's all good. Sometimes on a trail, usually like in the shoulder season, you can have, it's all snow, and then you get to one spot where it's just dirt and for a short stretch. And then it's like, well, I can tell it's all snow after that. Like, can I walk through that dirt on my snowshoes, or do I have to take them off and put them back on in 2 minutes? Totally fine to walk on dirt, branches, whatever with your snowshoes. Don't worry about it. If it's a really rocky area, don't walk on rocks with your snowshoes. Same exact reason, sharp teeth, better for traction. Teeth on rocks wears them down. All right, so the fun part. Hopefully I haven't scared everybody off with all the safety warnings for super safe activity. So where to snowshoe here in Central Oregon? We are spoiled. We have so many good options. So just to orient you here, we've got Bend over here, we've got Broken Top and the Three Sisters, Mount Bachelor's here. This white line is the Cascade Lakes Highway, takes you all the way up here. Closed, can't drive past Mount Bachelor in the winter. And then this is the Sun River Road here that gets you to the Edison Butte Snow Park. And then we've got a number of different snow parks here. We've also got Skyliners Road, which takes you out to the Tumalo Falls trail and that option. And we'll talk a little bit about some of these options. One thing to remember that I always try to factor in again with, where do I want to go today? Basing it on the snow conditions and the weather. So if it's one of those years, if you've been here for a while, sometimes we get big snow right in town. And when that happens, it opens up a whole nother world of places where you can go snowshoeing. Shevlin Park, amazing place in those conditions, and that road's probably plowed, pretty well. Hopefully they've plowed that parking lot before too long, or people have packed it down. But that's a great one. There's just the Deschutes River Trail through town can become a good snowshoeing option. And so there, especially like the south side or the north side, some good options there. So what I like to do is take advantage of that, because most of the winter, those low elevation areas, you don't want to snowshoe. So when you do get those opportunities, that's a good time to check those areas out. All right, Edison Butte. This is one of my favorites. I just really love this landscape. It's so neat. It's got just wall-to-wall old-growth ponderosa pine. It's pretty open, but not totally open. This is the one that's just onto the Sun River Road off of Cascade Lakes Highway. There's all these rock formations under the snow that when they're just covered with snow, it just looks like all these marshmallow fields that you're snowshoeing through. So really neat spot. Not much for like long distance mountain views, but and there's enough of a forest cover here that it's really good on stormy days. And there are a couple different options as far as distance goes. So you can do the short snowshoe loop, or you can do the long snowshoe route. Great spot. It's got a lot, it's just so much more interesting. Probably our most common and popular snow parks are Swampy and Virginia Meisner. And both of those have designated snowshoe trails. if you're new and haven't been before, those are good. There's a lot of people at beginners also great for Edison. I get a little, and maybe I'm just a little bit of a snob, but the forests on the snowshoe trails at Swampy and Virginia Meisner, I just don't find, they're just not super interesting. There's not as much old growth. You don't have the cool rocky formations. You do get a few peekaboo views here and there, and you've got the shelters, which are kind of neat. Some people are super into the shelters, so if you're into shelters, those are great. But I really like Edison. All right, so Tumalo Mountain. This is one not for beginners. It's hard to find the trail. There is a trail you can hike up to the top of Tumalo. You start at the Dutchman Snow Park that's basically right across the street from Mount Bachelor. This is a tricky one because, first of all, parking. That is a tiny snow park and it gets full very quickly. So you kind of, if you're going on a weekend, you kind of got to get lucky to get a spot. It's not great. You unofficially, maybe you go over to Mount Bachelor Park there and then work your way across. Careful crossing the highway if you do that. I won't officially recommend it, and I'm sure Bachelor doesn't want you doing it. But on a clear day, this one's hard to beat. The views of as you can see, the views of Broken Top and the Sisters, pretty spectacular. I was going to mention the trail to the top of Tumalo it's there. You can find it and be on it in the summer. I have no idea where it is in the winter. And you'll find there are different routes. You know, somebody went this way and then somebody else split off. Basically, the moral to the story to get to the top there is just go up. As long as you're going up, you'll eventually get to the top of Tumalo. Have a map. Be careful. I'm sure it's possible to get lost, but it's difficult on any day because it's just straight up the whole way. But again, the views on a clear day make it awesome. Last place you want to go on a storm day because you're going to work really hard and have no views, and the wind is probably going to be howling up at the top, and you're going to have snow in your face. So skip Tumalo on a stormy day. Not too far from there, this is Tumalo Falls. So if you head out Skyliners Road from town, that basically in the winter dead ends where you pick up the Tumalo Falls Trail. Two options here. There's the Snowshoe Trail, which as you're heading towards the falls, that's on the left side of Tumalo Creek. That's Tumalo Creek in the middle of the photo there. Or you can go on along the road that you would normally drive up to get to the falls in the summer. They gate it a couple miles down in the winter time and don't plow it. So people cross-country ski, hike up there right on the road. Sometimes what's nice to do is go out the trail and back the road or vice versa, just for variety. This is a good one kind of on any day. It's just gorgeous. You don't have as many views of Tumalo Creek itself the whole way. You have some here, some there, and then obviously the final stretch here is pretty awesome. Hard to beat the scenery there. The parking can be a little wild and crazy there. There's a few different options. So here and elsewhere, park safe, park smart. Don't be that guy who sticks halfway out in the road or double parks. Be smart about it. Glazed Meadow. This is a real fun one. This kind of fits that category. Most people probably haven't heard of Glazed Meadow, certainly not as much of a recreational spot. But this is a spot I love to do when we've had snow at low elevation. You can get this sometimes during the winter, but certainly after we've had some low elevation snow, this is a great spot to go. So to get here, you basically head out to Sisters, head a little further past Sisters, and there's a road to the right, Tollgate Road. Okay. No, sorry, Indian Ford Road, and that goes off to the right. You're going to turn to the right, and then there's a wide spot in the road parked right there that's plowed. And so there's not usually many cars, if any cars there, but it's a spot where you can safely get off the road. So you're not parking on the highway. wouldn't do that. There's usually not enough room and it's just not safe. So get off on the side there, and then you can very carefully cross the highway and head out into Glazed Meadow. You want to have a map. There's not like an official trail map that I can think of. There might be something out there that covers this. But I would just go wander out there. It's a great spot, super flat, super easy. When you get out to Glazed Meadow, if it's a clear day, you'll have awesome views of Mount Jefferson, like right in your face. It's pretty cool. This is right before you get to Black Butte Ranch. So if you get to Black Butte Ranch, you've gone just a little too far. And this is an area, as you can see, kind of like Edison, it has amazing old growth ponderosa pines. This is an area Oregon Wild helped on some restoration projects in years past here, thinning some small trees, protecting the big old growth trees. It's a great model for how it can be done right. Sadly, it's not the model that is always used when it comes to logging our public lands. But Glazed Meadow, great one. Just make sure you scope out the how you get there, because there's not a obvious, it's not like your Meisner Snow Park where everything's obvious and well marked. Another great one that is up by Mount Bachelor is Todd Lake. And in the winter, this one's a really neat one to do. You can do it as a loop, which it makes it, well, I guess it's technically a lollipop. Really neat. You park, for this one, you park at the Mount Bachelor ski area, right at near their Nordic Center. And then you take, it's called the Common Corridor. You take that, so scout it, you Google it, you can find all the details. But basically, from there, you hike on out up to Todd Lake. It's a good distance. You can kind of make this as far as you want. There are a couple of different loop options that you can make work here. And when you get up to the lake here, you can see Broken Top. It doesn't do justice. You don't have a full-on view of Broken Top, but it is more than you get here. But I just love these big sort of creekside snowbanks that you get right next to the lake. And there's also the forest you go through, go on the way up or the way back, depending on how you do it. It's just some big hemlock trees, which this is really high elevation. So if we've got a situation where the weather conditions are a little warmer than average in the winter, and you're like, I don't want to snowshoe in the rain, you can head up to Todd Lake, because this is one of the higher elevation options that we have, because it's 6,000 feet plus. It's right at Mount Bachelor, so you're up high. And it's also good on a storm day as well. You wouldn't get that little view of Broken Top, but you still get the creek views, all the big snow and the hemlocks, and so it's a good one there. And you can check the maps. The Common Corridor area, where there's a short little stretch where you're sharing a part of the Nordic Trail Network with the Mount Bachelor ski area. It's pretty well marked, and they just give you a free pass to let you go through that. It's right next door. You can't miss it. Pretty easy to figure out, even if you haven't sorted it all out ahead of time. Again, this is you can see this on the Dutchman Snow Park PDF map. Pretty awesome one. Little farther flung from our Bend backyard, but still, we're going to call this the Greater Central Oregon. Crater Lake is, on a clear day, I don't think you can do better. It is just magical on a clear day snowshoeing. You can drive all the way up to the rim of the lake, and then you can snowshoe as far as you want. You can go all the way around. That's pretty intense and serious. Plan accordingly. I don't recommend Crater Lake on a stormy day. You can't see the lake at all. I've done it both ways. You can see on the left. Notice the great view of the lake in the background. Not so much, but it's still fun. But I would save it for a sunny day. And you do definitely get some sunny days. Crater Lake gets 44 feet of snow every year. Think about that for a minute. That is a lot of snow. Normally, if you're going to Crater Lake in the summer, you drive south on 97, cut over, and come in, they call it the north entrance. That is not plowed in the winter, so you got to drive a little bit further. You could do it as a day trip. It's a full day, and then you come in through that south side entrance, which will get you right up to the rim. Right. And Mount Bachelor also has, if you're a beginner and you want to go with a guide, They have, the Forest Service does free guided snowshoe hikes at Mount Bachelor. You can find that on the Mount Bachelor site or the Forest Service site, but those can be a lot of fun as well. And it's always helpful if you're not comfortable doing it to have a guide with you or somebody who knows what they're doing. And then you kind of learn the ins and outs, and then do it on your own the next time. And you also get lots of neat information from the Forest Service on these. All right, so again, with the sort of greater Central Oregon theme, we've got the Ochiko Mountains here, which, a lot of us, we all think head west, head to the Cascades, and that's great. There's tons of great options there, but we also have these cool options in the Ochikos. They can be a little bit more involved. Two options here, Walton Lake and Lookout Mountain. How much has been snowplowed varies depending on the day. So if there was a big snowstorm last night, it's probably not going to be plowed all the way up to get you to where you want to go for Lookout Mountain. Walton Lake a little bit better, but if you want to call, you can call the Ochiko National Forest office. They will hopefully give you good advice on how far up is plowed. So this is a little bit more adventurous. You got to do a little more work to make this happen. But if it hasn't snowed in a while, like 3, 4, 5 days or a week, especially in the Ochikos, they don't get as much snow as the Cascades, then you're probably pretty safe. But you can always call the Forest Service again, see if they have any good intel on that. But these are some pretty neat spots, a little bit of a different landscape than you get in the Cascades. Love the Ochikos. Oh, and on the top of the summit of Lookout Mountain, this is super cool. So, and something that's probably more likely to happen in winter is from the summit of Lookout Mountain, you look to the left, you can see Mount Shasta in California, and you look to the right and you can see Mount Rainier in Washington. A tri-state view, pretty awesome. It's gotta be a crystal clear day to see that far with no clouds, no haze, no nothing. But it does happen. I think it happens more in the winter. So you gotta get a little bit lucky for that. But even if you don't get that, you still get some great views of kind of looking out all over Central Oregon, Mount Hood, all the way up to Mount Hood, most clear days. And then venturing out on some of the other options, you can head out over the Sandy Am Pass up there. The Ray Benson Snow Park is a little bit of a circus, but there's some good snowshoeing options. You can jump on the PCT, Pacific Crest Trail. So a couple different routes you can select there. Willamette Pass also has some cool options. Haven't done it yet. I'm really itching to do the Rosemary Lakes snowshoe. It's a little longer as a snowshoe, but I think that'd be pretty neat. So got a lot of options, a lot of fun places we can go snowshoeing here. And then one fun option for snowshoeing, we're getting to the end here. If you're the romantic, Valentine's Day is coming up, I would recommend snowshoeing on a full moon. Tricky part is you got to time a full moon with clear skies and hopefully not crazy freezing cold temperatures. Usually works best more like in March or April when it's a little bit warmer, but you can do it in the dead of winter too, and the sun sets earlier. So you can head out to some places. It's pretty magical, pretty romantic to get out on a full moon snowshoe. The snow is just lit up by that moon. Definitely have a headlamp with you just in case, and a backup flashlight. All those safety precautions you want to take when snowshoeing, double them all if you're doing nighttime anything, because everything from the driving to the getting lost to all that stuff. But if you're game for it, it can be super fun. I may or may not have proposed to my now wife on a full moon snowshoe, so super fun. But again, keep track of those weather conditions and all that good stuff. All right, and then rounding out here, and we'll jump into Q&A here in just a second. How to get involved with Oregon Wild if you're interested. You can become a member and support the work we do to protect these natural treasures. We all recreate out here on our public lands, and I think it's easy to take them for granted. They don't protect themselves. it takes a lot of work, a lot of coordinating, and a big team that you can be a part of to help support our efforts to protect these forests and these public lands. So I'd encourage you to become a member, make a donation. You can volunteer. You can that can come in many different forms. You can lobby Congress. You can sign up for our email list, and we'll help connect you. Hey, here's an easy way, a couple of clicks to send an email to the governor or your member of Congress. A lot of things that are pretty easy to do that might sound intimidating, but with a little bit of guidance, you don't have to be an expert. You know, if you go to a town hall or write a letter there or call your congressman, congresswoman, you know, hey, I like big trees. Please stop logging big trees. That's helpful. That's very helpful. And I work with members of Congress, and we hear from their staff that it matters. It might feel like you're a drop in the bucket, but it matters. Like it really does make a difference. So yeah, again, best way to get connected is to sign up for our email action alert. And that you can get there from OregonWild.org. And yeah, I think I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to get us into some Q&A here.
All right, hello, I'm back, everyone. The Q&A sometimes loads on a little bit of a delay, but getting us kicked off for Crater Lake, Eric, we had one person asking about if you had any experience on the Dutton Creek Trail, and in that same question, but perhaps more broadly for any of these, do you ever carry an avalanche shovel for any of these trails?
You know, a couple questions all in one there. I have not been on the Dutton Trail in winter or summer. Typically what I do when I go to Crater Lake, you know, you can go up and even if you don't snowshoe, you can just put your snowshoes on or whatever. Just getting to the rim of the lake in the winter is pretty awesome. So you've already won before you've even done much other than drive up there. I tend to go left and get on head towards the west side of the lake. You can snowshoe off to the right and head up Garfield Peak. I would be very careful doing that. The views from the top of Garfield Peak are going to just knock your socks off. I've never done that in the winter. I think it's a little sketchy, so I probably wouldn't do that. But you could do, you know, maybe part way there before it gets steep. But again, you know, the whole rim is potentially snowshoeable. You just want to make sure you don't get in. When you get into those big, wide open areas, especially if they're on steep slopes, that's where you need to start thinking about avalanches. And all of the areas we've talked about thus far, you don't really have to worry about that in carrying an avalanche shovel with you. That's more if you're off the main trail and getting deeper into the backcountry and really at higher elevation. So if you're in the forest, very, very low risk of avalanche here in Central Oregon. You got to get up, you know, near tree line to even start thinking about that. And if you're on a designated trail, the risks continue to go down. So I will never say no to extra safety measures. So you can always bring one. But definitely if you're going up higher, that's smart to do for sure.
Have you ever done any snowshoeing at Winoga Snow Park?
Winoga, yes. It's not one I would put on my short list of places to go. Winoga is a bit of a circus. It's where a lot of people go because you can go sledding, and a lot of snowmobilers park there as well. So snowmobilers go one direction, others go the other direction. It's a little chaotic for my taste. And you hear the snowmobiles parking. Last weekend, somebody was telling me they were trying to go sledding at the Meisner Snow Park, and they were like, yeah, we just spent 2 hours trying to get in and out. We never even found a parking spot. We just spent like 2 hours. I think they were exaggerating, but they spent forever in the Winoga Snow Park. I think that's a pretty unusual situation, but you can do it. I'm sure it has its good days, but yeah. One thing to think about when you're snowshoeing is, you know, especially if you're a little bit of a snob, like I confess to being, you don't necessarily want to hear snowmobiles buzzing around. And fortunately, a lot of thought has gone into where the trails are. So a lot of snow parks, if they're shared between snowmobilers and snowshoers, snowmobilers go one direction, snowshoers go the other direction. So Edison is a good example of that, where you're in the parking lot and you're like, oh man, it smells bad from all the exhaust and it's loud. This is not my nature escape day that I had planned. But you start going just a little ways on the trail and it's all nice, peace, love, and nature, and no buzzing snowmobiles. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
Do you have any tips for using a Venza? And I might look around and see if there's a good how-to that I'll embed in the thing, the information that we send around tomorrow once this is a video. But we have a couple people who've downloaded a Venza, and it looks like that they're having trouble importing maps or finding maps.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's happening. Technically, for a map to work in the Venza app, it has to be a georeferenced PDF. So that said, if you Google any of the snow parks here, Meisner Snow Park map, Swampy Snow Park map, Edison Butte Snow Park map, it's going to take you to a PDF that is georeferenced. Almost all of them are. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's one extra click when you're making these maps to do that. So the vast majority of them should be like that. I'm not sure why people would have trouble. What I'll do is I'll download it to my phone, and then there's the add map. You import a map, and the only trouble and it's not trouble, it's just something you have to deal with. And you can get the paid version of the app. The free version, it only allows you to have 3 maps loaded in. So the workaround is keep all of your maps on your phone, and the ones you're using today, you can delete whatever from within the app. You delete it, but it's still saved on your phone. It's just deleted from the app. And then you can re-import whichever one from your phone that you're using today. And actually, a lot of our snow parks have good cell reception here in Central Oregon. So if you forgot to download it, there's a chance you might be able to download it right from the snow park and do it that way. But yeah, it's relatively user friendly. So I'm not sure. Might be a little bit of bad luck, but yeah, maybe in our email we send out, we'll send you some direct links to where to get those maps, and yeah, hopefully that sorts it out.
One person is added in the free tab in the app. Meisner and some others are in there. One person was asking specifically about Potato Hill, the map there.
Yeah, the Potato Hill one I haven't tried. That's up Sandy M Pass, and I have not done that. It's on my list.
What are the pros and cons of snowshoeing on non-designated trails?
Good question. So if you're on a designated trail, there probably have been other people on it as well and packed it down. So it's going to be a lot easier. If you're not on a designated trail, it's likely you're by yourself or your crew. And so it's going to not be packed down. And so, if it snowed a foot or 2 last night or in the last couple of days, you're going to be working a lot harder, kind of like I talked about. So that's going to be a big factor. If it hasn't snowed in 3, 4, 5 days, that snow tends to settle on its own. And so that might be, or if it's been really windy, you can get wind packed snow. So that can work to your advantage to make that work. And then there's just probably a little bit of a safety benefit of if you're on a designated trail, you're more likely to have other people there in case something does go wrong. But a lot of people are looking to get out to somewhere away from people. So it's you can certainly do it. It's not hard, and it can be pretty fun. Just be a little extra careful. That's all. Yeah, and that I'm trying to think of an example. Like maybe if you're going to Todd Lake and you're out somewhere totally off trail, you could have a spot where there's like a creek that runs under the snow, and it's not a tree well, but it can be like a false shallow bridge over the creek. So there's a big cavity, and you might step onto what looks like total normal snow in the snowfield, and you could fall through. So I'm probably stretching a little bit. You'd have to work to do those things. But if it's an area that nobody else is snowshoeing, just be a little more eyes out, eyes open for those types of situations. You know, if you're in a canyon and you see no creek at the bottom, there's probably a creek at the bottom. Factor that in and maybe don't walk right on top.
All right, since we're kind of over time for this will be the last question. But offer guided trips for any of the snow parks or other activities out of Central Oregon.
Yeah, there are some guided trips that folks do. So Wanderlust has some guided trips that they do. Great company. I've only heard good things about them. So I would recommend them. I don't know where they go. I think they probably go to a few different places. But if you'd really like to go with a guide, that would be one option. The guided snowshoe at Mount Bachelor with the Forest Service volunteers. That's another great one. So those are two good ones. Over the years, Oregon Wild at times has led snowshoe trips for the public, guided trips. We don't have any scheduled for this year, but something we might add back at some point. And then also there are, you know, in the more informal community-based way of potentially finding someone to go out with you is there are a bunch of different Facebook groups and probably others that I'm not even aware of, but like the Central Oregon Nordic Club, if you're like looking for someone to snowshoe with you, you can make a post on that page or on their Facebook page, and there's a ton of people that track that, and I've seen many times where somebody has posted that and 2 or 3 people say, hey, yeah, I'm going up tomorrow, I'll meet you there, or let's carpool or whatever. So, you know, these are strangers online, so be careful there, but it has worked many times for many people, all caveats aside.
All right, well, thank you, Eric, and I'm sorry we didn't get to all of the questions, but we'll have some follow-up information, like I said, when we send out the recording tomorrow, that will have some more information on Avenza and some other resources that we'll embed in the blog and the link that goes out. As I mentioned during the intro, we have some other presentations coming up in the coming weeks that you can sign up for now. The raffle is still open tonight. And again, thanks everyone for donating to that for those tickets. Those help us continue to do these and go to our bosses and say these are still presentations that people are interested in. We'd like to thank everyone for showing up. We'll continue to have information through our email list about potential events and actions for people to take. We are also hiring a new development position, so you can find that on our website if you want to pass that around to anybody who is interested in. And with that, once again, thank all of you. Thank you, Eric, for this presentation, and we'll see all of you out on the trail.